All right, which one are you gonna do? I'm scared.
Shot roulette. Here, you do this one, I think.
Why?
Yeah, it looks good.
Because there's no bubbles in that one.
Cheers.
Our other brother Spencer set up shot roulette for us.
Some more water, some more shots. Oh, water. Sucker. I'm kind of jealous.
Welcome to the Soup and Salad podcast with myself and co-host my brother Max, and today we have on Charlie from Clover Hill.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Welcome.
Exec chef, Michelin star rated.
Yeah.
How does it feel? How did it feel to get that star? Was it crazy?
Yeah, it was pretty crazy.
Yeah.
What'd you do that day?
We drank a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot.
Were you? I know this is like kind of probably a peak moment of like your journey, but since we're talking about it, were you surprised or were you expecting it at that point?
No, we were pretty surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, do you have any
cool.
sense that people are there scoping it out? Like, or do you just have no idea?
You have no idea.
Right.
No, they're really good at making sure you have no
Really?
idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. How it happened for us is technically they reached out to us in the summer, and they do this thing where they like add you to the guide now, right? But they've been doing that for everyone, so you don't really know what's happening. So you technically really don't find out until that night.
Really?
So we got added to the guide, I want to say it was August. And then the week of, we got an invitation to the ceremony. And we were like, okay, like, what does this mean? Because you kind of hear rumors that, like, you don't go unless you're getting something. You still have no idea, right? Exactly. So you don't really know how to prepare.
Yeah.
So you show up, and then it happens.
Damn, that's so exciting.
That is crazy. And in retrospect, were you like, oh, I think it might have been like this person on this day, or no?
Are you like constantly looking around?
No, like you really can't tell. You know, you think you can. Like we have a fairly open kitchen, so I can see every guest.
Yeah.
And there's times where we'll like, like joke around and be like, okay, you can try to guess tendencies and whatnot, but like you just really don't know.
You really don't.
You really don't know.
That is wild. That is like the ultimate test of consistency, meaning that it's good all the time.
Yeah.
Damn.
Oh, that's so cool. Thanks for joining us. We just like to get to know people's whole like story. We talked to so many different people, from people who haven't even gone to culinary school, who are completely self-taught, may have learned from YouTube, to people like you who are literally Michelin star chefs. So I just want to get a little bit of information about your background. Like, did you grow up cooking? Was it something you learned from your parents, or were you someone who just like got into the kitchen and were totally self-taught?
Well, I was around it a lot as a kid. Like I grew up in a family that we cooked for every occasion, you know what I mean? But it was nothing like what I took my career to,
Like
I grew up.
up.
Right, you know what I'm saying? Like, but it was like, Sunday dinners, holidays, birthdays, all that kind of stuff we cooked for. So that's where like the initial like interest in cooking came from.
Yeah.
Cool.
Right. And then from
And
there,
you grew up in Detroit, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, we're from Cleveland, so we're not we're not far.
Not too close yet.
Part of the Rust Belt. Yeah.
And then from there, it went into like, honestly, I gained interest from like watching TV, like food shows, things like that. It looked cool to do like that kind of food, like Iron Chef and shit. At that time, it was like so fancy. Yeah. But I still had no idea I would end up in like fine dining at that point. Yeah.
Right.
So at what point did you go from like just home cooking to being like, okay, like let's try some little bit more next level stuff?
Well, so like my mom wanted me to go to college right after high school, so I did like a year at like a regular college, and I was like, this sucks. Like I don't want to do homework.
I mean, you're doing great now. I mean, it's
Right.
it seemed to work out.
Yeah.
And then I came home and got a couple odd jobs and just kind of got in the kitchen, got a feel for it. And then I was like, well, I had some bar and grills, and I'm like, this kind of like sucks. Like,
like
it's
an
not
Applebee's type vibe.
No, it was like a little bit better than that, but it was still like in the kitchen. I was like, this vibe is not what I was looking for, And that's where I like, just looked up like fine dining restaurants in the metro area. And then I kind of stumbled into like a real kitchen. And I was like, okay,
cool.
Yeah.
This is kind of what I want to do. And I was around, I would say I was like 21.
Yeah.
Okay.
What year is
at that
this?
point?
Like how long ago? How long did I'm just curious? Like how long does it take to go from like a first job to Michelin star? You know what I mean?
Well, it took 10 years.
I mean, sometimes it takes people. Most people never get it.
Right. Yeah. It was actually like my 10 year of cooking.
Oh, wow.
That's when. I mean, I used to think I wanted to do sushi.
Yeah.
And I was like, I read something that it takes you like 10 years to just to cook the rice. And
Yes.
I was like,
Everyone I know.
Yeah.
I was like, we don't
you
have time for
of
that.
Sushi. It's like an old man still making the rice. You're like, bro, you ever gonna get past it?
So then I just got kind of sucked into like the world of like fine dining and like
Yeah.
French and European cooking. I thought it was cool.
Well, it seems like your restaurant's pretty seafood forward anyway. Does that come from like the interest in sushi, I guess, or a little bit?
I think it started with like, in like my first couple of jobs, like the fish was like this like sacred thing. Like only the sous chefs could break down the fish and touch the fish, and only the chef would do it. So I think then I was like, man, like that means you're like good if you can touch the fish.
Yeah.
So it like started with that.
Yeah.
And then I got like obsessed with it and like just like cooking with it. I thought it was very challenging as well, and it's also how I like to eat.
Yeah.
So it just kind of like naturally happened at the restaurant. It wasn't like the plan when we opened the doors. It just kind of like naturally evolved into it.
The restaurants that you, like the bar and grill places that you worked at, were those in Michigan, in Detroit?
Yeah.
Are they still there? Do you know?
It's closed.
Really?
So my very, very first job is closed.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
And then, so the places that you went to after that were like a little more fine dining, were those also in Detroit, or did you?
Yeah, it was in the suburbs. So
In
it
the
was
suburbs.
in Birmingham, Michigan.
Okay,
and
got
that
it.
place is still there.
Yeah.
Really?
It's called Forest.
Have you gone back since?
Yeah, I go back. Whenever I'm home, I try to go back.
Yeah.
And like my first chef, we keep in touch.
Are they like,
Oh my God, that's
Michelin stars?
Yeah. It's,
They
it's
take all the
cool.
credit. They're like, tell you everything.
I mean, he doesn't take credit openly, but I'm sure like when I'm not around,
He's
he
telling
takes all the
people?
credit. Yeah.
For sure.
That's funny. Was he like a mentor kind of guy, the chef there? Like, did he help you learn, like, kind of guide your way into the like ultra fine dining world?
Yeah, I mean, like he was like the first person that, you know, I think like, he had kind of just left the fine dining world to come back to Detroit and like cook there.
Yeah.
And he like inherited like a group of people who like didn't know shit. So
Yeah.
he was just like, at that time, he was like this like angry person of like, I
Classic.
can't believe you guys are so bad at cooking.
Oh my God.
Gordon
And like, you know,
Ramsay,
we
yeah.
adjusted and like then he like well like, you know, showed us our first like cookbooks and all this kind of stuff and like really like, you know, piqued the interest in like the world outside of Detroit at that time and like
Yeah.
really was like you have to go and cook in like, I don't know, Chicago, San Francisco, New York, or like Europe to really be inside the industry. So he kind of like pushed us all into that direction.
Yeah. I mean,
And-
maybe he does deserve a little bit of credit then, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I feel like same thing that's happened with Cleveland. I feel like Detroit has had like a bit of a renaissance in terms of like the culinary world over the past. Things got a little rough in both places. Like when we were growing up, like in the 90s and stuff, it was like, but now I feel like over the past 5-10 years, there's been like a lot of.
Yeah, I mean, I think the food scene, like, I don't really make time to explore it, right? Because, like, when I go home, I'm just, like, with my family.
Yeah.
I'm not really trying to, like, check out all the new up-and-coming chefs. Like, to be honest, I'm just, like, trying to be at home and
course.
have them cook for me.
Yeah.
But, you know, I try to keep my ears open and, like, see what's going on. I've seen a lot of press, and, like, the bar scene is crazy better, and the food seems to be moving at a faster pace, you know?
Right.
I still think, like, you know, like, the guest, like, the consumer is a little bit behind, and I think that slows down the people who are trying to create these experiences, right? I think that is what dictates what you can serve. If people aren't open to it, and you're gonna like have to close your doors, and like you can only take so much risk, you know? What I mean?
It's hard to beat like the open-mindedness of New York. Like you
Yeah.
see it when you go back, and it's like even like with like fashion, like it takes 10 years to catch up.
It takes so
you
long
know?
to catch
Yeah.
up. You know? I always felt like Detroit, especially at that time. It's a little bit different now, but at that time, like family dining, what I call like dominated, right?
Yeah,
Like
totally.
Right.
if you didn't have, you know, a side of fries or a side of veg or whatever
basket of
on the
bread.
menu, people would like just fucking boycott the restaurant.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like they weren't looking for chefs to like show them what we wanted to show them.
Yeah.
And I just felt like fine dining was the best way to do that.
Yeah.
So in a bigger city where people are like more like open to seeing like what you think about food,
Yeah.
it was better for us, you know?
Yeah, people want to be surprised here more. you
Yeah,
know?
Yeah.
exactly.
That's the whole thing.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going from Midwest, like step above Applebee's vibes, like a little bit nicer suburbs, and then after that restaurant, did you come in the suburbs of Michigan? Did you come to New York straight after that?
Yeah, well, I want to say it was 3 years there.
Yeah, that's a good amount of time. Yeah,
Yeah.
That's
I was
fine.
like, at that time, I thought I was a good cook, and
Yeah.
I was like a sous chef there, and I thought I was ready to like take on the world.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So after that, I came to New York City. I think that was 2016.
Word.
How'd you pick New York?
Actually, funny enough, I didn't want to move to New York. I wanted to move to California first or Europe, but California they both were too far for like my mom. You know what I mean? At that time,
That's
and
far.
Europe was hard to get a job because I had like no resume.
Right.
Nobody knew me.
Yeah.
So actually, a friend of mine wanted me to move to New York as well. So he was like, "Let's move to New York," and I was like, "Okay." So I came out here for a week and like did a bunch of trails,
Yeah.
and then I got a couple job offers, and then I moved here with a job.
That's pretty quick.
A job, but with no apartment, which was stupid.
Yeah.
Where'd you stay?
I spent my first week in hotels and Airbnbs.
Oh my god! Yeah.
It was
so.
gnarly.
How many years have you been in New York?
Since 2016, I guess, right?
7.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Right, my math is right. 7 years now.
So which was the first restaurant? Like, who hired you right out the gate?
The first job was a place called Bettany, which is closed now.
Yeah.
It was for a chef.
Kind of familiar, actually.
Bryce Schumann was the chef there.
Okay. Where was it?
It was 5th and 55th.
Yeah.
How did you decide what places you were gonna go like do trials? Were you just like Googling like available positions?
Well, I mean, honestly, it was like I wanted to work in like the hardest, toughest environment possible.
Really?
Yeah, that was my goal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I just feel like I needed it.
Right.
You know, like I was a little bit older, and I just felt like I needed to like experience like a place that was going to keep me like very disciplined.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I chose my first job.
Yeah.
Which was probably not the smartest thing to do.
I mean,
Was it a tough kitchen? Was it like pretty intense in there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were they like yelling at you and like? How do you feel about that kind of super tough pressure? It sounds like you like it, I guess, but
I mean, as a cook, I liked it.
yeah,
Now as like the chef, like
you don't want to be a dick to people.
yeah, I don't want to have everybody like hating me and afraid of me all
Right.
the time. You know,
Yeah.
so I try to have balance on like just like I know what it was like for me,
Yeah.
and like it's not meant for everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Like that kind of environment weeds out a lot of people very fast, and not always in a good way. Right?
Yeah.
Like some people just learn different.
Right.
They need a different kind of like
Yeah.
treatment.
so
Yeah.
that first place, was it French or what kind of food was it?
I wouldn't consider it French. It was like American.
Okay.
You know, I think at that time it was a little bit not super classical at that
Yeah.
time. You know,
How big like was the kitchen? How much like was it a big staff or like relatively small?
at Bettany,
Yeah.
for me, it was like a huge staff. Right.
Yeah.
It was like just like on Garde Manger at the time, it was like 4 of us.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Wow.
Just on like one station, and like
Right.
the pastry department had their own department, and
Wow.
like it was like AM and a PM team. So to me, it was like it felt like it was like 30 of us. I don't remember the exact number, but
Yeah.
it felt like a huge
big.
kitchen
Big
Yeah.
compared to what I
operation.
came from.
Yeah. So how long did you stick around that spot for?
Well, they kind of closed abruptly when I
Okay.
first. So I was there for like maybe like 6 months or something like that.
Oh damn! And they
And
were
then
like, sorry.
it was like weird vibes, and then
Yeah.
I ended up being a part of a opening up of another restaurant, which wasn't like super fine dining. It was like in Greenwich, and it was more like farm to table,
Yeah.
market cooking kind of vibe, and that's kind of like settled me into New York for a bit.
Yeah.
And then after that, I went to work at Madison Park.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
legendary, obviously. So, like, how was that experience?
Crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because they have the whole thing where, like, don't they have like the dream team or like, you know what I'm talking about? Like, these people
Yeah.
who like, what's that whole thing like, and like, how is it working around such like a established, like, well-known place? It's like has such a high level of
Yeah.
perfection, you know?
I mean, it was. I mean, it's cool, right? It just depends
Yeah.
on what you like, right? Like for me,
Yeah.
the biggest thing was like just like seeing how they like created consistency, how they maintained it, and created a culture, and like it was really interesting how you had to like buy into like their way of thinking,
Right.
and I thought that was like a learning experience that I kind of look back on now about like how you create that as like
Yeah.
a leader. And then, you know, there's the other part of like actually like working there and like
Yeah.
cooking the food. Which
What was the
like,
hiring process like to even like start working there?
I think I had like an interview, maybe like 2 working trails,
Okay.
and then I got hired, and you like start at the
That's
bottom,
pretty-
then you have to
pretty
work
quick.
your way up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you like, oh shit, like the second you
Yeah.
got, like when you got hired, or were you like, okay, let's go, like I can do this, like
It was like, oh shit, every day.
really?
Yeah, really
Yeah.
stressful.
Every day.
Was it like a scary kitchen to be in? Like, were
Yeah.
you nervous just going there?
I mean, I'm not really a scary person,
Yeah.
but like,
Yeah.
yes, there is a bit of, there is a bit of
Yeah.
fear.
Well,
Because
the
you like,
pressure's on.
you
Yeah.
immediately know like what the consequences are going to be
Right.
Yeah.
if this thing goes a certain
Yeah.
way.
And what was your main position in that kitchen?
Well, everyone starts as a commis, so you start at like in the morning as a commis, and then I did the butcher position for a little bit, and then I worked the hotline for
Okay.
a little bit. So that all 3 are very different challenges.
Yeah.
Right. Like, you know, getting up at 6 in the morning, 5 in the morning to like move around the kitchen and run fast is kind of crazy.
That's
Yeah, that's
crazy.
insane.
Yeah,
Wow.
Did you just like not have a life when you were working there?
pretty much.
Yeah.
How long were you there for?
Like a year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good amount of time. Why did
Yeah.
you get out of there? Like, was it just intense? I mean,
I don't really remember. I think I just had like I needed like a lifestyle change at that time to be a little bit more available because you're kind of like really sucked into that thing.
Yeah.
Once you're in there.
Do they have a lot of turnover there, or are people there for a long time? It seems like a place where people are in and out just because of how demanding it is.
I think it's like a mix.
Yeah.
I think they do a good job of keeping their managers there for a really long time.
Yeah, that's good.
But like cooks are always going to like come and go.
Yeah.
Right. Like maybe they're not moving up fast enough, or maybe they don't like the environment, or maybe they get like another job offer somewhere else. Like cooks are very in and out.
Is there any horror stories in the kitchen there? Like someone just getting fired on the spot for, I don't know, fucking something up super bad?
Horror stories?
Yeah.
I don't want to get in trouble for telling.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think the funniest one to me, I think it's funny, not really a horror story, was like a kid went to use the bathroom at like the wrong time during service, and he got sent home for it.
Really?
Oh.
They're like, get out.
Yeah.
So you have to like be careful, like
It was just like bad timing. Like they needed him to do like they do it like a table side course.
Yeah.
And it was like it's very coordinated, right? So you
Yeah.
have to be there at the time, otherwise it makes up the time of the meal.
Yeah.
And he thought he had time to like use the bathroom really quick. And like when the chef like called his name to run to the table, he wasn't there.
Oh no. He took a piss. Get out.
Yeah.
you have to like be careful about how much water you drink before the shift.
It was just like bad timing.
Yeah.
So that was like a funny one. When I was running that place in Greenwich Village, like that was like the biggest challenge, right? And I had to like try to create like a menu.
Yeah.
And I think one of my funnest things I did was like it was like a piece of fish that we like. It was like fish that we like wrapped in leeks and chives and like kind of tied into a knot. And it was like super cute. And I was like, man, this is cute.
Okay,
I like still look at pictures of it. I'm like, oh, this was cute. You know? I mean, like now looking back, it looks very juvenile, but at the time I thought it was like super cute.
That is
Yeah.
So I'm curious then, I know we kind of like breezed past your experience at the Farm to Table Greenwich Village restaurant, but that sounds like it was a little more casual. Like what made you go from there to then being like, okay, I want to go to Madison Park? Like, were you just like, I want to, like, what was that transition like?
Well, for me, it was always like, I was getting some reps at like trying to like create, and I just would feel like I would always hit a wall.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I need to go back and be a cook again.
Oh,
like, I'm not ready for
I
this,
see.
you know? And
Interesting,
I was like, all right, I need to go back into fine dining because this is not going the way I wanted to. And then I was like, yeah. Then I was like, I went back into that world.
Yeah.
Got
I just
it.
felt like I just wasn't ready to be.
Yeah.
I wasn't like as good as I thought
Yeah.
I should be at that time.
That takes a lot of like mature
humility,
self.
yeah.
Humility.
Yeah.
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 Like,
So is that, were you there when they were doing the all veggie menu? Is that still how it is now?
No, when I was there, it was very
full
far
meat.
from that.
Yeah. You're a butcher.
Oh, I guess you're a butcher. Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that switch? It's kind of a bold move, like for a
Isn't
restaurant.
it vegan or is it just?
Is it vegan?
It's plant-based.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
plant-based.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I think it was risky.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think if anybody could do it, like they
They
can
can
do
pull
it.
it
Like
off.
they have like the team of people to pull it off. It's cool to see a restaurant like that like reinvent itself and like kind of take that risk, because I think a lot of restaurants with like 2-3 Michelin stars,
scared
they're
to
just so
change.
caught up in like keeping it that they don't even like change the menu a lot.
Right.
They don't do a lot. They're just like, okay, we need to maintain
Yeah.
this thing. And I think for them to do that, I think from a chef standpoint was like, oh, it's cool that like you can still take a risk
Yeah.
at that level. You know.
Do you, I mean, do you feel the pressure with your spot now to like, are you nervous to change things from time to time because you know it's like, now I got that status symbol attached to it?
Yes and no, right? Like I'm not, so like I stopped changing menus so frequently. They used to change me like a lot, like every week, every day. I'm tired of that. Let's just change the menu. But now we do 4 menu changes a year. And I think for me, what I saw is that it creates more consistency
Yeah.
in the food, you know, and I do get tired of it in the season.
Yeah.
Like, I'll be, man, I'm tired of eating this because we eat the menu every day. But I do think I can see like, I think guests can like,
Yeah. Well, people
Taste
probably
it, the
look it up too.
consistency.
Yeah, they
I
want to
know.
like get something. Yeah.
I feel like a season is the perfect amount of time to like create that demand of people who like talk about something and tell their friends, and then their friends want to go.
Yeah.
And then as soon as everyone's like wanting it and in there, then you change it again and it's like new and exciting again.
yeah, and also gives people a reason to like come back, right?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
You know, it's not the kind of place you're going to eat at, you know, once a week or once a month, really.
Right.
But like if they'll like it enough to come back for each season,
Yeah.
I think that's
Yeah.
dope. We do a rice dish it's like a dirty rice dish that we've been on, I think, for the last 3 menus in a row.
Yeah.
But we'll at least change, like, we'll put like a protein or a different sauce on it or something like that. But that's the only thing that's like kind of a staple.
How do you guys do that?
So we do it with mushroom. So like usually it's like pork or beef and like a trinity of vegetables. So we always use the basis mushroom. So we do mushroom, scotch bonnet, celery, onion as like the base of like the dirty mix. And we do like a XO sauce as well that we make ourselves.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And that creates like this like dirty rice vibe.
Yeah.
But instead of like it being like pork or beef, it's with like mushroom and like shellfish.
Yeah, we gotta go. We gotta go.
I have, this is, now that I'm like thinking about New Orleans and stuff, what is your favorite culinary city to visit or that you have visited or that you want to go to?
Well, I mean, my favorite is New York.
Yeah.
For me, I want to really go eat a lot in like in Spain, I would say.
Yeah.
Spain, and like the Copenhagen kind of vibe. Like I feel like those two cities are the most like interesting to me.
Copenhagen. I haven't heard. I mean, yeah. What do you like about the food scene in Copenhagen?
It just seems very different from every place else. You know, like I think in Europe, you can find similarities in all the surrounding cities. You know what I mean? And I think the Copenhagen vibe is like just totally different to me when you look at the ingredients they cook with.
Yeah.
It just seems very intriguing.
Have you been to, is it Osaka? Is that how you say it?
Osaka.
Yeah. I actually went earlier this year.
Yeah,
You did?
same. It's fucking sick.
Yeah. It's super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very Nordic, dark. Like, kind of like the menu vibes.
Yeah. They're like really good at like the aesthetics of that place.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Do you think that like the Michelin chefs like all know who each other are in New York, or is it a little secret club, or not really?
Do you guys all hang out on the weekends?
It definitely it feels that way. Like
Really?
especially like the people who are like 2 and 3 stars. Like
Yeah.
they all have like a little.
Oh no
Really?
way!
They all know each
It's like
other.
Illuminati?
They all like
Yeah.
hang out with each other. It feels that way now.
Really? No
you know.
way.
I
Did
think
you
all
get,
of
like
us-
introduced into the club when you got this star?
Not really. Like I think like the 1 stars like it's so many of us that we don't keep in
I
touch.
mean, there's
I
not
think,
that many.
but
Like,
it feels like a lot though.
Yeah.
Like now, but I think they have a separate like.
you seem like you're always trying to like level up. I feel like you.
Yeah.
Are you trying to get the 2? Or are you kind of like we were talking earlier a little bit that you're saying maybe you want to open a bar next, but like, do you want to keep leveling up in the restaurant world? Or are you thinking about maybe switching it up or like?
Well, I mean, my goal was always to get 3,
Yeah.
but
You're not gonna stop until you get it. I can tell.
I mean, it's just different. Each journey now is different. Like now, like I think it felt impossible like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And now that you're here, you get 1, and now you start thinking about like
Right.
how to grow in that way,
Yeah.
and it still seems very, very far away.
Yeah.
But that was always the goal. So that's
Yeah.
still
I mean, you
my
did
goal.
the 1. That's insane.
Yeah.
Like, what's the difference between a 1 and 2 and 3 star? Do you think? I mean, I know there's like the definition by the Michelin Guide, but like, what's
Right.
your opinion on it?
I mean, my opinion is like how unique your style of food can be, like your cuisine,
Yeah.
right? Then you obviously have like the service side of things, right?
Right.
Like bringing like a very elevated, almost
Yeah.
like theatrical style of service. And then the story behind it as well definitely plays into it, right? The
Yeah.
story
I never
into
thought
like
about that. Yeah.
why you're cooking, what you're cooking,
Right.
that depth of like ingredients and all that kind
Right.
of stuff flowing together as that what I think creates like that like true like 3-star
Yeah.
like,
Wow.
experience. you
Then
know?
what makes you decide like was the next step opening your own restaurant, or like what was that next step?
No, just to continue cooking, honestly, right? Like I never really had a plan to, I never really knew when I would open my own restaurant,
Yeah.
right? Like I never knew how that would kind of happen. And I mean, I still technically didn't really have to,
Right.
right? So like, after that, I wanted to just kind of keep cooking, keep growing, keep learning as much about food as possible. And then like now after a couple of jobs after that, I say that was 2019. And then I went back and kind of had a job where I was creating. And then I went to DC during the pandemic to work, and we opened like a chef's table. I was like a cook there and like a sous chef there. And then I came back to New York again to just like be a cook. I was
Yeah.
always about working for other chefs and
Yeah.
continuing to learn.
Yeah.
And then the Clover Hill opportunity just kind of.
Okay.
Yeah. How did that
Came.
happen?
Yeah.
Well, so I actually knew I was a part. So they opened in 2019 first with a different chef.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the chef was somebody I had worked for before. And I was around because they were opening, and I was trying to actually move out the country. I was trying to move to Europe in 2019.
Where are you gonna go?
I was actually had a job in Norway.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Really?
That's Norwegian
That I was
friends,
that I
so
was
know it.
taking.
Yeah.
And then obviously COVID happened and everything goes to
Right.
shit.
Yeah. Damn. Well, I mean, maybe it worked out for the best.
Yeah.
Truthfully.
Right, maybe, right? And then I went to DC and came back, and I wasn't looking to be like the head chef anywhere at that time.
Yeah.
I was actually just thinking about like going to be a cook again, actually.
Yeah.
So it kind of just fell into place. Like your buddy was working there, I guess, and then he left or something. And
Yeah, like COVID happened, they parted ways, the ownership and him
Yeah.
parted ways, and then Clay reached out to me, like, hey, what are you up to? I think this was October 2021.
Okay, yeah.
And I was like,
Nothing.
Nothing, right?
Nothing.
And then honestly, I want to say we had one meeting. I'm pretty sure it was one meeting, and a couple emails after that, and we were both just like, all right, let's do it.
Wow.
I just felt like, although I wanted to go be a cook again, I just felt like to turn down the opportunity to run a place in New York City was just stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, I spent most of my days just being like, I have no idea what I'm doing.
Yeah. Really?
You know what I mean? Yeah. I mean,
figuring it out.
to
Yeah.
go from like, my role before this was I was a sous chef, executive sous chef.
Right.
And even then, like, you're not like the chef. You're just
Right.
like managing the cooks and like the food and stuff like that. And then
Yeah.
you get here, and I accepted the job. My first thought was like, who am I going to hire? Who's going to work for me?
Yeah.
And then you have to figure out the food is one part, but like the operations of it all.
Yeah.
It's like a totally different thing.
Just managing.
Managing
it's
is
like a whole other
just
thing.
yeah. It's a whole
Yeah.
other
Like,
muscle.
it was just like,
Did you have to build a whole staff from scratch? Like, did you get
Yeah.
all new people? Wow.
Did you poach any friends? Were you like,
Yeah.
yeah. My first hire was a kid or guy rather, who I worked in DC with, and I was like convinced him to like move to New York to work for me.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then everyone else was like people I just like had no idea.
Yeah.
I didn't know
Wow.
anybody.
Wow. I mean, you nailed the like leadership aspect of the whole thing. Obviously,
Yeah.
I bet I mean, I'm sure the owners or investors or whoever were like, "This is a fucking good move." You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it worked out for all of us, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I think obviously they had a better idea of what they wanted. Like with
Yeah.
their restaurant, they had the space and everything. And I love the space, and I was attached to the space already, and I knew the name, and I knew the story behind it. And I like how not just intimate the space was, but just intimate the team was, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't like this big investment group and like people like that.
Yeah.
It was just like us, right?
It's
It
like
was
manageable.
it's like the three of
Yeah.
us trying to figure out how to run a restaurant. And I liked that because
Yeah.
we felt like it was like all in this together,
Yeah.
you know? But we had no idea what we were getting into, really.
Yeah.
Like we
Yeah.
did, but we didn't.
And then how, like, as you were describing, like, the Michelin process and the service and all that, like, how much of your mind is thinking about the service as it is, obviously, the food? Like, is that a huge component for you, or is
You're not about
Yes.
to drawing people like on
Like,
the tables.
yeah, right?
yeah.
Like you think about it, but I think in my case, I don't have to think about all of it, right?
Yeah.
Because, I'm not just by myself, right? So I'm running like the kitchen, and like
Right.
Clay runs the dining room, and we just make sure we're on the same page. But
Yeah.
he's like the creative on that side, and
Yeah.
I'm the creative on my side. So I don't have to think about it as much as some other chefs do.
Right.
Like we kind of see eye to eye. So like if something's not right,
Yeah.
he'll tell me. If I feel like something's not right with him, I'll tell him, and it works.
Yeah.
And all the ideas we come up together, and then some things I'm like, yeah, like it's your idea, you figure it out, and he's the same with me.
Yeah.
But you do have to think about how it all comes together,
Right.
right? Like how the dish eats, how it feels, how
Right.
it makes the guests feel, how are we going to drop it, how are we going to talk about it,
Right.
like all of that stuff you have to think about.
It's so interesting, like
Yeah.
the story behind all the dishes and things. I mean, like what? So what's his name who runs the kitchen? You just said it, or I mean the
Clay.
dining room. Sorry.
Clay, yeah.
Clay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like, do you, knowing that there's these restaurants out there doing these crazy experiences, do you try and like ever think about interesting things to do, or are you mostly focused in the kitchen and he's doing the dining room? You know.
Both, but I
Yeah.
think it's about trying to define like what Clover Hill is, right?
Yeah.
Like because like I have a million ideas about dishes. They don't all fit in this
Right,
restaurant,
right,
right?
yeah.
And the same with probably with him with service. Like there's a million things he could do in service, but like, we're limited to like the space we have,
Yeah.
Right.
the building, everything. So you can't just be like, oh, we want to carve ducks tableside.
Yeah.
It just doesn't, like it doesn't work in this space, right? You got to EMP they wool out
Right.
Yeah.
clay thing that's like smoking in the dining room, and that's just, that's not us. So we have to sometimes like rein in our creativity
Yeah.
Yeah.
and make it work here.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the hardest part.
Just
Yeah.
limited by the space and the.
Yeah, and like trying to define like what this place is. So then when
Yeah.
you do another restaurant, it's like different,
Right.
But that is probably the hardest part. Is like, okay, how do we all these ideas we need
Right.
to filter them to make them work and create
Right.
this identity of this place.
Do you feel like you're sort of capped creatively, creatively at a certain point, or do you feel like you got plenty of room to keep doing unique things?
Yeah, I mean, I think I think it's my job, especially when it comes to the food, obviously, to kind of like not let the space or the kitchen staff or the size or anything like influence the food too much.
Yeah.
You have to try to still like break down these own like boundaries you have in your head, right? Like our very first tasting menu was 6 courses, and now we do about 12.
Wow.
With the same space, the same amount of cooks.
So you make it work. Yeah.
You just got to keep challenging.
How would you
yourselves.
describe the food? I mean, it's sort of New American, I guess, or
Yeah, I mean, because you have to.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's a lot of French influence, a lot of Japanese ingredients we cook with.
yeah.
And then the flavors is I kind of think where I kind of show like my background as far as like how I grew up eating. Like it's not that it's soul food, but it's like growing up we cook with a lot of sodium,
Right.
a lot of big flavors.
Yeah.
You know.
Some MSG in there.
Yeah, like right, like we're not afraid to, show big flavors at the restaurant. And I think that's what sets it apart. Because you can say it's a lot of Japanese and French fine dining restaurants nowadays.
Yeah.
But like, it's not quite traditional like duck press that you may get at a French restaurant. And it's not sushi either, right? It has to have its own like flair to it. So I think the big flavors that we add to the food sets it apart.
It's its own thing.
Yeah.
I saw you guys putting that fluke in the tortilla press. I was like, this is
That
insane.
that was a fun one.
That's a crazy move. I was surprised it doesn't like fall apart. Who like was that your idea? Did you just like try that one day?
So the technique I had, the tortilla press is a technique I had done before.
Yeah.
As a cook, but then I wanted to kind of make this like spring roll thing, and that was very new, and I thought it was super cool.
It is so cool.
And then like some people didn't think it was as cool as I thought it was. You know what I'm saying? Like,
like what are you doing?
Sometimes guests are like, "What is this?"
Yeah.
And I'm just like, "You don't know."
You don't get it.
But the hardest part of that dish, actually, funny thing, wasn't the rolls. It was actually like the caviar on them, like making it stay on the fish.
Oh, because it's like slipping off.
Yeah, like, so we would like plate a bunch and it would like fall off.
Yeah.
And you have to keep replating it, and that was like the hardest part of that dish. Actually,
How do you get it to stay on there? Honestly, like you just have to balance it on there.
Just pray.
Yeah.
Just pray. I just stayed on there.
Oh man, yeah. Because what do you do? Like if it falls off and there's like I saw there's like sauce under it, right?
Yeah.
So if it messes that up,
Yeah,
then
just
you
have to
have
replate
to
the whole thing.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
it's so detailed. It's
Yeah.
crazy. It's insane.
Yeah, that was one of my favorites. Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
god.
Is that still on the menu now?
No, that was winter.
That was winter. Yeah.
Yeah, we probably won't do that one again.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
We'll revisit that in a couple years. Or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
I'm sure whoever was prepping that was like,
I know.
Yeah, she hated it.
really? Yeah.
She hated it.
Thanks a lot, Charlie.
Yeah.
Chef.
What's on the menu right now that you're excited about? Anything in particular, or just all of it?
My favorite dish right now is like we do a grits dish.
Yeah.
And I think it's the funnest
That's
one.
some soul food action right
Right?
there.
You know,
Yeah.
like I think it's like grits with uni, Hokkaido uni, and then we
Yeah.
do like a foam on top as well. And I think it's funny just because people are like, grits, like
Yeah.
I didn't come here for, I thought it was a fine dining
Right,
restaurant.
right.
You know, I think
Like,
that's
just
fun, but I think
wait.
it's so surprisingly good, and it's apparent that like, growing up we wouldn't eat grits with like uni.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, that would never happen.
Yeah.
Right? So I think like the irony of it is the funnest.
Yeah.
It's like the funnest point in the meal for me.
Right.
Yeah.
For people
It's
to get
sort
that
of
dish.
it's funny. That's an
Yeah.
interesting point.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like people take it so seriously, but you're kind of like trolling a little bit.
Yeah, right. Like it's like fun. Something that's so cheap and like has a certain reputation to
Yeah.
kind
Right.
of elevate it. It's like fun.
What is
Yeah.
your like when you're not working? Do you ever go out to eat? And if so, where do you like? What are your favorite places in the city?
Yeah, I don't go out a ton, but I always have my favorite place to go. It's a place called Zuzu's.
Oh, I love
Oh,
it.
our friend worked there.
Yeah, he was
really?
one of the
Jimmy.
chefs there.
Yeah, he was a chef
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, he took us to Zuzu's a couple times.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a
Oh
good
my
spot.
god.
That's like
Yeah.
my favorite place to go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the dips, the like,
Yeah.
So
yeah.
good. That was the biggest meal I've ever had. They like.
I know they brought
gave
out
us
the works
everything.
for us that
Yeah.
day. Yeah.
Oh, I love that spot. Great rec.
Yeah, it's also cool looking. It's
Yeah.
it's a crazy
Yeah.
space.
Besides that, a lot of Uber Eats,
Yeah.
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 What's your Uber Eats order?
chicken wings and fries.
Yeah, from where?
Right now, this place called Munchies.
Oh,
Oh,
my god.
It's on. I think it's on Nostrand.
I've never been to.
I almost got winged seafood last night.
Yeah, you ever get wings and seafood? We were talking about that in the last
no.
one. That's good wings,
Yeah.
honestly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know about the seafood, but the wings,
Yeah.
lemon pepper wings from Wings and Seafood.
Yeah. So since you have so much, like, have you ever been to Japan, or is that a
No,
destination
I
for you?
haven't.
Yeah.
I keep
Damn.
saying I'm gonna go, but it's a long trip.
It's a long trip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a journey, and you want to be there for a while too. You know, it's like
Yeah,
you take
yeah,
up time to work.
yeah. But
Yeah.
I need to go.
Yeah.
Just because like, it definitely influences the way I cook a little bit. But it's
Yeah.
like from afar. Like I'm like learning
Yeah.
from a place of like curiosity, but I haven't actually like been.
Right.
You know.
It's an interesting place, man. They like really care. Even the small places just care so much about the details of like everything. They just take pride in it. It's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And since you were going to make the leap to Europe before your current position, do you ever, not to blow up your spot or like tell anyone you're leaving, but do you ever think about that still, like working abroad?
I think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, you can't help it, right? Like it was a goal I had that I kind of like skipped over. I don't know if it'll happen, you know, because now I'm at a point where I'm not going to go be a cook now.
Right.
Like that ship is sailed, right?
Yeah.
So, like,
this
back
Michelin
to the line. Yeah.
right. But I think about it all the time. I think about like, maybe I could like, you got to be outside the box, right? So like naturally the progression, people think like, you have a fine dining restaurant. So now you're going to open like a fast casual place. You're going to open a bar, or you're going to like open another location. But sometimes I'm like, well, what if I just open something small, like in Europe that
that'd be cool.
That'd
like
be
I've
sick.
never, like what if I did something like that? So I think about it a lot.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of coordination, like,
I mean, do you feel like now that you have this Michelin star attached to your name that it's almost harder to leave in a sense? Like,
or easier, I'm curious. Yeah.
Right. Or, I mean, I just mean harder because like you don't want to leave the place. Like if you leave, I mean, like, could you take a couple of days off? Like, is there someone there that can...
Yeah, I take days off now for like
cool.
usually for like work stuff.
Yeah.
Or like take a vacation here and there.
Yeah.
Like they do fine, right?
Yeah.
But like there's like an attachment to the restaurant, right?
Yeah.
Especially now because it's still pretty new. It's only we're almost 2 years.
It's crazy.
I think like once it's at like 5 years old or something like that, I think we'll all be like, okay, like
what's next?
Yeah, like we did this thing. We got the most out of it. Like, what are we doing next? And I think that at that point, you start like planning.
What happens if after 5 years they just hit you with the 2-star? You're like, fuck. Stuck again.
Yeah. So then,
another 5 years.
Yeah,
3
never
stars.
ending journey.
Right. So then I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Hopefully it happens before 5 years. Though.
Yeah.
We don't want to wait that long.
Yeah. No, it's coming next year. You ever think about doing like a cookbook or anything?
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. I mean, you must have so many like original recipes, right? Like, do you have them all stashed in some like secret file on your computer?
No, I'm not really stingy with the recipes. So like I try to I've just really honestly learned to just like have a recipe for everything.
Yeah.
Like I cook with a lot of feel.
Yeah.
And so we may have like, even now we have some things that we have like a method or way that we do it, but it's not an exact recipe.
Right.
It's a
So
little
I'm still
different.
like learning that part of like being a chef.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think you have to worry about people stealing them either because no one's going to be rolling up Faluca.
Right.
Do you ever like to get out there? I mean, obviously you're like working in the kitchen and everything, but do you ever like to get out and just like talk to the people who are there?
Do I like to do it?
Or do you do it, I guess?
I'm learning to like it. Yeah. I mean, I do, right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I can't complain, right? People come and they're like, oh, I want to meet the chef. I want to talk to the chef. Like, I have to be like, I can't say that it's a bad thing.
You're like, what's
up? But I don't really love being like out in the dining room.
Yeah.
I actually like when people come to the kitchen, they come to the pass. We have a little area where you can like come talk to us there.
Oh, that's cool.
That's like my comfort zone.
Yeah.
Because I feel like once I'm out in the dining room, I get anxious. I'm like, man, should I talk to everybody now?
Yeah.
I'm like talking to them. Like, should I talk to them? Should I talk to them too?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I just want to run back to the kitchen.
It's sort of weird to be like a celebrity every night, like in your own little space. You know what I mean?
I wouldn't say celebrity.
But I mean, people are probably going there often because of you. You know what I mean? Like,
They do for sure.
So like for them, they're like, that's the guy from the video,
Yeah.
from the Soup and Salad podcast.
Right.
Yeah. I remember when I was little, I was a huge like Iron Chef fan too, and we went to one of Michael Simon's restaurants, and I asked for his autograph in the restaurant.
Like 11 years old. That's sick.
And he was so nice, signed the menu for me. It was like, and I still remember that. So
That's sick. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, you never
Our
know.
mom just sent us a picture this morning of her with Bobby Flay like 10 years ago. So bizarre. Yeah.
That's you now.
I know.
Celebrity chef.
Yeah, sometimes it is me. People want to take pictures and we sign their
Really?
menu. Yeah.
I bet. Yeah.
all the
Shit
time.
happens all the time. People probably coming to town. Like, they, you
Right.
know.
Yeah, that's the best. That's when it was really hitting me. Then when people like
Travel for you.
we traveled just to eat here and we're flying back home tomorrow.
That's
Yeah.
so
I'm like, damn,
cool.
that's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, that's the whole Michelin thing, right?
It is.
Oh yeah, that's the whole point. I
Yeah.
guess.
It's
I
worth
mean,
the travel.
it is, but
eventually.
once like it's happening to you,
Right.
You're like, whoa.
it's like crazy.
Yeah.
You know, you're like, you drove all the way here for this.
Yeah. For
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Once you got the star, does that affect like your pricing? Like, and not to say like everyone just gets a star and goes crazy, jacks up their prices, but like, do you actually think about that? Consider like what you could charge at a certain point?
Yes,
Yeah.
but we don't like we didn't like add like Michelin tags to the.
Of course, yeah.
But I mean, our price has gone up over time, but honestly, just because of our cost of ingredients, like we just like to serve nice ingredients. Yeah. And give more food. Like I said, we started at $135 for 6 courses, and now I think we counted yesterday. It's about 15 bites of food, about 10 courses. Yeah. And now we're $265. So like when the price goes up, the amount of food goes up. Yeah. Like the nicer the caviar is, the nicer the fish is. So it's a very like honest transaction. We like to keep it.
Well, it gives you the opportunity to step up the ingredients. Right?
Yeah.
And what is the like? How much are you involved in the bar program or like the cocktails?
Me?
Yeah.
I'm just a taste tester.
You are, yeah.
That's it.
What's your favorite one there?
Yeah. Oh, I'm obsessed with our Manhattan right now.
Oh,
yeah.
Classic.
I feel like those are coming back. I keep hearing about them.
Yeah. I mean, I think, like we used to have a bigger bar program. Last year, we tightened it up as a team. It's very like focused, right? It's about food and wine first, right? It's a fine dining experience, right? It's about food and wine. Yeah. But we also want to have cocktails that are like very tastefully made, everything on the same level. So we have a great cocktail list. They're all very spirit forward, but like I'm obsessed with the Manhattan like right now.
Yeah. All right.
I know what I'm
getting.
Yeah. But they're all very good.
Yeah.
You guys don't have a $5 shot and beer combo.
After we close. After we close, after hours.
Do you guys like ever really blow off steam and just go out together, or are you kind of like, oh, I'm tired at this point?
Not a lot. Honestly, like Saturday nights we like hang around and like drink together. Especially because I open bottles of wine and stuff, so we like crack wine and like drink together. But we don't really have the staff that like that classic, like we're all gonna go out together and like I don't feel like it's very like mature staff. But every now and then we do. Saturday nights are our night that we all like sit around and drink together. And
that's nice.
Talk about the week and whatnot.
That's so cool.
How many people are on your team right now?
In the kitchen?
Yeah.
There's 8 of us.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man. This is an interesting world. Like
I know. I feel like I could ask you a million questions about this.
I know. I mean, like, what do you think about, how would you describe to somebody who, like, hasn't really been to a fine dining restaurant, who thinks, oh, like, it's just tweezer food kind of thing that, like, I mean, because we love it, you know what I mean? Like, but how would you tell it to somebody who doesn't understand the concept of, like, paying a lot of money for nice ingredients and the creativity behind it? And, I mean,
for me, I think it's about, understanding the intentionality behind it and the details behind it, right? Yeah. And I think that is what it's really about. Like, I know it's like, tweezery and like the bites are small, but like everything is so intentional. And the amount of time that like the chefs put into each bite is like pretty crazy. Yeah. And I think that's what makes it so fine. And also the ingredients too. But even then, like the amount of time we spend on like sourcing ingredients, is
it's a ton goes into it.
Yeah, it's a lot that goes into it. And I think that's what it's about. Like somebody taking so much time to like create something for you, right? Or a team of people, however your restaurant is structured. Maybe it's like 6 of you guys or whatever.
Right.
Creating the menu. Yeah. That goes into it. That makes it so special.
I feel like once you have it once,
you get it right
then
away.
you get it. Because you don't even understand what it can be until you experience it.
Like how good one bite could be. Right. You're like, oh my God, like it can be perfect. You know what I mean? It's the balance of everything.
And same with the ingredients. It's like if you eat out of season, you don't even realize what food really tastes like until you're eating it in season.
Even just like tomatoes, people think they don't like tomatoes until they have like a really good one, like, when it's ripe,
Yeah, exactly. And then, but you still have to be open to it, like as a guest, like you have to be open to it. Otherwise you can't really receive it.
Right.
You know what I mean, like
I'm sure you must deal with people like here and there that are just, they don't understand it and they're like, I don't know. They just don't get the whole vibe of the place, right? Like with any fine dining restaurant they would go to.
Yeah, you get that every now and then. You can't please them all.
Yeah.
Of course not.
So like you get some people who aren't open to just like, trying new things.
Right.
And maybe they think they know how they want this thing cooked, or like I don't eat mushrooms, things like that. But it's like,
yeah.
I feel you, but
I don't eat mushrooms. Yeah, do you ever have like? You must not take requests. Right?
I try to.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
Like if someone doesn't want something in it, like you'll.
Or like an allergy, even I imagine.
Oh, allergies. I guess.
I don't know. It's 50-50 because it's hard because we have such an open kitchen.
Right.
That like sometimes I don't want them to look and be like, man, like, he's saying no. Like, he's sitting right there and he's telling me no. But
that's so much pressure.
Yeah.
You're like just side-eyeing him.
Like I will. I will, like I will say no to certain things though.
Yeah, of course.
Like, certain obvious things, I'll be like, okay, like
Yeah.
fine. But like certain things, like I will be like, no. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you
Do
know what
people
you're
like
talking about.
fake allergies too? So
All
that
the
they're-
time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That is so.
They said they're allergic to
annoying.
whatever. Like
Yo, we had to do our funniest one we had to do last year. Tell us he was allergic to chicken. And
I don't think I've
anything
ever
from
heard
a
that.
chicken, like eggs, chicken stock, he can't have it.
chicken stock.
And we were like, all right, well, we can't cook for you then.
Yeah.
It's chicken stock and everything. He was just like, all right, well, tonight is fine. And I'm like, what? Like, you literally just told us you would die if you had chicken stock.
Oh my god.
You know,
You would
so
die.
it happens a lot. People fake it. People fake it all the time.
You would
so
think
all the
if you
time.
were gonna go to a place like that, you would just not go if you're
Right.
gonna like ask for substitutions. That's so
Yeah,
silly.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think they just don't know like how serious we take it sometimes,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like someone's like, if they put like, oh yeah, I'm pescatarian for January because
Right,
it's 2024,
right.
right? And you're like, all right, well, I'm gonna change everything. Then they get there and they're like, well, actually, then they'll like try their guest
Right.
beef, and I'm like, but I thought you were pescatarian.
Right.
I just made
Yeah.
all these changes for you,
Yeah.
and you're not like.
That's
so you know, you have
obnoxious.
to tell us like how serious it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, to give me all the information.
Yeah.
You know.
You need like another check. Like, are you sure?
Right. Like, is this serious or not?
Yeah.
You know.
You just don't like chicken. Or what's the deal here? Yeah.
Who was on your Spotify Wrapped top artists?
Oh, and is it the same Spotify that you play in the restaurant?
Yeah.
Oh no, it's not. But my top artist is always Drake.
Classic.
Drake.
Yeah. Of
I,
course.
I kind of hate admitting it sometimes, but
Yeah.
it is what it
Yeah.
is. Yeah, it's probably it's
I
like
think he's yeah.
Drake's number one.
He's
for
on
sure.
everyone's.
Like every
Yeah.
every
Yeah.
year. Yeah.
What's up? Did you see the restaurant's Spotify Wrapped? Is it through Spotify?
I make it through. I made it's on both because people
Yeah.
like some people use Spotify and Apple Music. I use
Yeah.
Apple Music the most.
Yeah.
So ours is on Apple Music, and I mean I think I have like now it's like 4 or 5 different playlists that we play at the restaurant. I try to create them like different vibes and whatnot, but I don't know who's the most used artist on the playlist. So I will be interested in seeing
Drake.
seeing that one. I don't think it's Drake. Because I think people are like, yo, why are they playing so much Drake in here?
You'll love it anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah.
It's a lot of like decent amount of Anderson .Paak, decent amount of D'Angelo
Yeah.
in there.
Anderson .Paak's great.
I would say it's a
Yeah.
decent amount of Usher's on there, low key.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, but it changes. It
Yeah.
changes,
Oh, yeah. Little R&B vibes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm in.
So is there anything else that you want the people to know or anything you want to shout out or have
Wanna
people look
recruit some
forward
new
to?
employees?
Yeah. Put a job listing up. Or just tell people to come hang out and although you won't come out of the kitchen if they come see you.
Yeah.
No
I-
request.
Yeah.
I'll come in. I'll be nice. I'll talk to everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I don't have too much to shout out. You know, I think
Nice.
the restaurant's in a good place. You know, I think we continue to try to be a great new age like fine dining restaurant in Brooklyn. So I think it's worth everyone checking out.
Well, we'll be there.
We'll be there.
That's for sure.
Clover Hill.
Yeah.
We're going.
Yeah.
Please.
All right,
Clover
shout
Hill.
out. Thanks for
Pull up.
coming.
Thanks
Yeah,
for
of course.
coming
Thanks for having me.
through.
Appreciate it, man.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you.
We gonna do shot roulette.
You don't have to do
No shots for me.